We are, I guess this is kind of like an introduction now, even though we've been doing this for a while. But we are talking creative thinking. So we're here with Terry Buffalo.
Hey,
Miss Lisa's there, Rod, and we have Chooks, our international lawyer, who are on the scene and are chiming in and really getting things rolling in terms of how we should be thinking about moving forward, given the current pandemic and health crisis, how we're going to transition, and of course, near and dear situation to Terry and my heart, thinking about how we're impacting the youth and making sure that we're making meaningful strides towards making sure that they're getting acclimated to this new world that we're in right now. And so we've kind of been chatting about that later, and we're chatting about that before, and we're going to be chatting about that some more and later because I will be continuing to have these Zooms. So I don't know. I guess we should jump back in. So I guess the latest conversation was about figuring out how to get our students thinking about investing, thinking about finance, thinking about money. I'm going to try to see if I can get this video uploaded in a second, but moving forward, what's the first next step, whether it's our youth or whether it's just trying to pad our pockets during the pandemic? What's the next step?
I'm not sure that who did somebody trying to jump in?
No,
Because
Terry, go ahead, Terry. Yeah.
it was just like it was like a think tank that was happening here, and so it just went there because I was saying that my main goal, in terms of my creative thinking, I want to develop educational programs, for our communities, not just youth, and then I thought about that. I mean, everything that's been said has motivated another thought for me, that I had another aspect of the topic that I had not considered. And so I recognized the value of it, but it was not specifically for any one thing. It's just motivating us to do things and to get these kind of conversations generated among the people that we communicate with in wherever.
Exactly. Chooks, go ahead and chime in. What was your thought immediately? What were you thinking about, whether it was this financial idea that we had just discussed, or if there was something else that was bubbling up? What were you going to say?
You got
Don't forget to unmute.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, given the fact that we don't know when the pandemic would eventually be settled and resolved, or when the vaccine for the virus will be discovered, I think for now we should be looking more into how we can hold cash. Like they say, cash is king. So the more money you have now, the more bargaining power you would have in the near future. And also, given the fact that the world is currently experiencing a recession, so it's advisable, in the short and near term, to have cash at hand. However, going forward, you should be looking forward to, investing opportunities. Just like Terry rightly said, creating programs or financial literacy programs for kids and teenagers and the youth would also go a long way, in setting the community towards, a brighter path. So by and large, basically, I think it's just about having to understand the community and being able to develop certain programs that meet the community's needs, be it financial, emotional, or otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we're all in agreement, and I wasn't trying to, put any boundaries on it. That's one thing about creative thinking is you take like the 5%ers used to say, you build on it. You take a thought and you build on it. So that's what this conversation has been for me, because I'm building on every thought that's been expressed, that we can And that, I believe that's how we empower ourselves and empower our youth, you know, to get them thinking and have given them a concrete basis, you know, to start from. And then say, it's like say, when we, you know, when you were talking about who, I don't know who said it, but you know, to put in, I had somebody talk about that before, put in $100 a week, you know, and there were like 6 or 7 people there, and they were saying, yeah, I can do that. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. I can't commit to investing $100 a week in something, you know, but I can see a $5 a week investment and see that you can do just as much to impact and inspire. And then as you make more money, you can invest more money,
Right.
you know, and do bigger and better things. You know, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of your work
Yeah, absolutely.
that pays off. You know?
Yeah. And when you're thinking about, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I
Oh,
ran my mouth. I had
no,
a
that's
ball with it.
okay. I was, you know, we here, we're moving and shaking, but you know, thinking about quality education, right? So I'm gonna move forward when we're talking about the building process, you know, one thing at a time. So I'm gonna move forward with this idea that we're gonna commit to figuring out how to ensure that our youth have financial literacy background that is going to, you know, place them with a firm foundation on which they can build any of these other entrepreneurial, creative, visionary paths that they're on. And so if that's the case, then okay, so we're going to use a $5 a week, not even a week. We'll do $5, do $10 a month. Hey, welcome. We'll do $10 a month and we'll say, okay, we're going to put this and invest this in the youth. And this is amazing what, you know, how timing works out, because the gentleman that's connecting now, he's one of the most creative that I've met, and this is another international friend. So this is really cool. We got the, you know, international community here, because I was able to invest. I don't even know how much money I gave personally, but I may have given $25 personally. I think the total came to $100, and he was able to create a video for me, and I want to show that, and that's going to kind of be my introduction for him. And hopefully I can get this going. I'm going to get real creative with the Zoom thing, but he was able to create an animated video for me that really just took my vision, my words, my thoughts on who I was, and he visually created it for, I don't know, maybe about $100 or something. And so he was able to really get you know, something I would have had to pay somebody $500 for, something that I've paid people $500 for before, to create something just because I was willing to invest in his interest in improving the digital learning, and being able to do what he does, and he can explain better than me, but doing all that graphics kind of stuff. You know, that's who he was, and now he dropped off. But you know, it's just really interesting that he popped in just at that moment as we were talking about that, because it literally was like, hey, he wants to do a course, and he wants to use that course to figure out how to do digital videos. And so we said we were going to invest, and I threw some money over there, and he came up with a wonderful product, and I personally only gave $25. You know, and so and it's definitely something I would have had to pay three at least 100 times, you know, 10 times is more rather, to get done. And so moving forward, the first step is to figure out, okay, what would the youth be doing with this pot of money? How are we helping them fine tune whatever skill we're trying to get at, right? Because when you're doing these kind of things, the ideas backwards planning, what are we trying to fine tune? What are we getting at? What's the goal for them to know? Go ahead, Rod.
Yay. No. I was going to say, guys, we don't have to like take any money and put it away. You think now that things have changed, people have a little bit more money than they did before, and you can have more if you have more accountability. And when I say accountability, I mean, think about it. We're not getting up and running around day to day as much anymore. So that means you can eat a little less. If you can eat a little less, you can like dine out less. Now all of a sudden you have more money. Now what do you put that money in? Everybody can make something. So we have to sit there and think, what is something affordable and easy that people need, that people can make? I don't know, dealing with kids. I think we should go back to Brother Terry's first suggestion: selling fruit and water. Like that, nothing's more humane than that. You know, like who's gonna like shut that down? Got bottles of water for sale, apples and oranges and bananas for sale. That's vitamin C, fiber, and potassium. That's great. They can learn about things as they're trying to get rid of them. Because like right now, it just doesn't make any sense. If our health is so important, what's the sense in like eating Little Debbie snacks and all that? Like being grossly abusive of those snack cakes and things. Now, especially with what is it, the meat processing plants have been designated. Like there's been what 2,200 as of last week that have became ill from COVID-19. It's a great time to like step back, eat a little bit more healthier, spend a little less money. If you got money coming in, great. Figure out how to keep as much of it as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like I noticed. You know what I think the greatest hustle is right now? My cousin has a 14-year-old son, and he has the PlayStation 4. He buys the video games and the downloadable content. She tells me how like he spends up to $120 to $200 of her money on this content. You're spending things on things that he wants, and you know, she tries to provide. Well, his father passed away, this, that, and the third. But there's a lot of parents out there like that, not in the same like situation or predicament, but spend a lot of money on their children, a lot of wasteful money. How do we get that money to go into getting them to make their own money is the question. Because I don't know, like, you know, being a parent, you can attest to this, Toy. It's real easy to just spend money on them sometimes. You know, I like my kid enough. You know, I love my little girl. I go into some place and I'm like, I'm gonna spend $10. I come out like I spent $200.
Well, I mean, you brought up a interesting concept, and that's what we would call a competency when we're thinking about planning a program and a learning program. So the competency you addressed was accountability. So you addressed that when you first started talking. So as a parent, accountability is saying that this is the budget. When we walk in here, that's the budget that we're going to spend, and that's what you stick to, and that's what you teach your daughters when it comes to accountability. I know for sure when it comes to trying to limit what we're spending when we hit the grocery store, it's like, hey, I'm walking in here, I ain't got but $100 in my pocket, y'all. So let's make it do what it do. You know what I mean? And so that's the competency. Accountability is one of the skills. The other skill then, as we're moving forward, oh my goodness, the word was just there and I lost it. But discipline, there we go. So, discipline is the other trait and the characteristic that we're trying to instill when we're moving forward and thinking about how we're laying the foundation. Accountability, discipline. So how are we showing them that this is something that they regularly invest in? And maybe that's what the membership fee situation is. That's showing a sense of accountability. Certain things start making sense when you're asking them to spend or to give their time. That time investment has to be shown as part of the discipline and commitment to getting things handled and making sure that they have a flow. Because what I've learned is no matter how smart I am, and I'm one of the smartest people I know, and I mean that in the most humblest way possible, because I went to CMU. There's a ton of really smart people there, and then I go home and there's a ton of creative people there, and knowing who's around me, everybody's really brilliant. It's just I catch on quicker when it comes to picking up certain aspects of things, and still without any discipline or accountability, things go absolutely nowhere. And so, that's really important to teach that no matter how smart you are, if you're not dedicated to your craft, if you're not dedicated to actually doing what you say you want to do and moving forward and creating that space as whether it's a goal, a timeline, all of those things, you have to be able to create that for yourself. And that's a skill in of itself, setting a goal, because we don't always understand that the point B that we're trying to get to, we don't always understand that it's not a straight line, and that or that the path we're gonna have to really work for. It's tough.
And yes, you are one of the smartest people I know, and I say that with all honesty. But what I was kind of catching on, it's like we don't have to come to any conclusion about anything today. It was to spawn the idea or the thought, and then if anything, maybe determine when we're going to meet back here. And see that if we have those habits of being able to commit to meeting together, maybe from there different things can grow. Or we can talk to other people in our communities and maybe have them on the line the next time, and what I was talking about, what I wanted to implement in terms of the education programs that I have in mind, it's going to probably be after we get less of this social distancing, so that I can, get out in the community and bring people together. I will be knocking on some doors, and bringing children to a youth center or library or whatever. I was talking to someone over in the Gettysburg Library one day last week about bringing in a curriculum based on Dr. Claude Anderson's powernomics theories and practices. But no, I was not looking for us to come up with a plan today. That was just not, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think there's no better time than now, right? And this is not saying that everything has to be set in stone, that we have to do it now. But I think given that this is a recording that we'll be able to push out there, this is going to be a reminder in our footnotes or our bullet points rather, of the areas that we recognize are things that we're definitely going to have to address when it comes to, going back to the drawing board. And this is kind of serving as our template and is going to be able to, kind of and set the rubric for what we say we want. Because I mean, I think we've talked time and time again on a live and said, well, what's the code of ethics? What's the code? What's the standard? How are we defining it? Who's defining it? And right here in this moment, we're defining it for ourselves. And I think that's the really cool and important piece. And everybody has a chance to chime in if they're interested, in thinking about this. And this doesn't have to be long, but this has already been really, really dope and cool in the moments that we've been able to record. So, I appreciate you in a very real way, every single one of you that came in, your energy, the level of expectation coming here, knowing that we wanted to actually give each other something and invest. And we invested our time in each other because we're committed to making a real change during this time and beyond this time, given what we've learned, in the present. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, did you have any other ideas? Anybody want to give any last thoughts? Because I am going to stop the recording. We can still hang out because hey, we're cool. But
you know what? Earlier we brought up tithing in the church, right?
Yeah.
So I got to looking into herbs, or like the stuff they used to always talk about in the Bible. Did you know like hyssop is like, it's got like a bunch of antiviral properties? And like
I'm not familiar.
Frankincense and myrrh is good to burn in your house to like purify the air. So I got some of that in that coal. But all I'm saying is like, this is a great time to like just look up like the thing about like, don't get me wrong, like I said, not really a big fan of the Bible, but I see why people like, need it or do it. It's fair enough. But it's a great time to like look up some of that stuff and actually see like what its importance in its role was back in those days. Because like, back then you think about it, that had to be 10 times scarier. You must have thought like a pandemic like this was some kind of scourge or demon. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy how far like we've come you know, as people, as far as we know. Yeah, that's about it.
When you're funny, you should say that. I was burning some sage, frankincense, and myrrh, and can't think of the other one off the top of my head right now. But I was dealing with some church people. I hope they didn't take it too personally, but they were saying that burning that stuff was witchcraft, and I think I lost a couple of friends with that. And so when you said that, I literally, I picked them up yesterday and I was burning them today, and so when you start talking about, I think the church can be a very good place, but we have so many different ideas of what is truth and what is not, and what is God, and just so much scrambled up in there. But I just appreciate that, because you kind of validated, my thinking in that area.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and wrap everything up. Thanks so much for coming by, and the recording will stop now.
Bye.
Adios.